The morning mist hung low over the dense forest of Kruger National Park's northern section, an area rarely visited by tourists due to its remote location and difficult terrain. In a camouflaged blind constructed 3 days earlier, wildlife photographer Sophia Mitchell adjusted her position, carefully checking the memory cards in her cameras. At 36, Sophia had spent the last decade documenting African wildlife for National Geographic and various conservation organizations. But this assignment was different. She had received a tip from a park ranger about unusual activity in this isolated section, reports of vehicles entering unauthorized areas at odd hours. What she captured on camera that morning would later become the subject of international headlines, a criminal investigation, and a heated debate about wildlife conservation ethics. Just after 6:15 a.m., the first sign of activity came. Sophia's trained ear picked up the distant rumble of an engine before it was cut, followed by the sound of car doors closing, too far away to photograph but close enough to confirm her suspicions that someone was entering this restricted area. She activated her long-range recording equipment, the directional microphone pointed toward the source of the noise. 20 minutes passed in silence. Then, through her telephoto lens, Sophia spotted movement. 2 men in khaki clothing and caps were making their way through the underbrush. Their attire mimicked that of park rangers, but something about their furtive movements immediately struck her as suspicious. Genuine rangers moved with confident familiarity through the terrain. These men crept with the caution of trespassers. Sophia began documenting their movements, her camera clicking silently as she captured frame after frame. The men appeared to be following something, periodically consulting what looked like a tracking device. Their behavior suggested they were after a specific animal rather than conducting routine patrols. When the men disappeared into a particularly dense section of forest, Sophia made a difficult decision. Despite the risks involved in leaving her blind, she needed to follow them to document whatever they were planning. Gathering her essential equipment and securing the rest, she slipped out of her hiding place and began tracking the men, maintaining a safe distance while using the natural cover of the forest. The terrain grew increasingly difficult, steeper, with thicker undergrowth that snagged at her clothing. The physical demands of the pursuit left Sophia breathless, but her determination never wavered. After nearly 40 minutes of careful stalking, she detected voices ahead and slowed her approach, activating her video camera. What she witnessed next froze her in place. In a small clearing partially concealed by a fallen tree, Sophia saw a magnificent male lion lying on its side. The animal appeared to be semi-conscious, its massive chest rising and falling in labored breaths. The 2 men were crouched beside it, one holding the lion's head while the other examined something on its neck. "And the tracking collar's damaged," the taller man said, his American accent clear in the morning stillness. "No wonder we lost signal. Must have been fighting with that other male we spotted last month." "Can you fix it here?" asked the second man, Australian by his accent. "No, we need to replace the entire unit. The battery is nearly dead anyway." Sophia's confusion turned to understanding as she realized these weren't poachers, as she had initially feared, but researchers working on what appeared to be an unauthorized tracking project. Still, something didn't add up. Why operate in secret in a restricted area without the distinctive vehicles or uniforms of the park's research team? She continued filming as the men worked with practiced efficiency. The American produced a case from his backpack, opening it to reveal medical supplies and what appeared to be a new tracking collar. What struck Sophia most was their confidence in handling the dangerous predator. They showed caution and respect, but not the fear that amateurs would display. "He's coming around too quickly," the Australian warned, checking the lion's eyes. "We need another dose," the American nodded, preparing an injection with quick, practiced movements. "Half dose should do it. We just need another 20 minutes. As they administered the sedative, Sophia shifted position slightly to get a better angle, inadvertently stepping on a dry branch. The crack seemed deafening in the quiet forest. Both men froze, heads snapping in her direction. "Someone's there," the Australian hissed, reaching for something at his waist. Sophia remained motionless, barely breathing, her camera still recording. After a tense moment, the men returned their attention to the lion, though their movements now carried an edge of urgency. "Hurry up," the Australian muttered. "Could be rangers." "Almost done," his companion replied, securing the new collar around the lion's massive neck. "This updated model should give us much better data on his movements, especially at night." Their conversation confirmed Sophia's growing suspicion. This was an unauthorized research operation. While their intentions might not be malicious, they were still violating park regulations by tranquilizing and handling wildlife without permits or supervision. The men worked quickly to complete their task, checking the lion's vital signs periodically and applying some kind of ointment to minor wounds on its face and shoulders. "These are fresh," the American noted, gently examining a gash above the lion's eye. "He's definitely been fighting, probably defending his territory from that younger male." "Looks like he won," the Australian replied with a hint of admiration. "GPS shows he's been expanding his range northward, taking over the territory that old male abandoned last season." Their conversation revealed a deep familiarity with this particular lion and the local pride dynamics, knowledge that could only come from long-term monitoring. Sophia continued recording, fascinated despite her ethical concerns about their unauthorized activities. As the men packed up their equipment, the lion began showing signs of recovering from sedation. Its massive paws twitched, and a low rumble emanated from its chest. "Time to go," the American said, gathering the last of their supplies. "He'll be fully awake in about 10 minutes. They retreated carefully, walking backward for the first few yards to keep an eye on the increasingly alert predator. Once at a safe distance, they turned and moved swiftly through the forest in the direction they had come. Sophia remained hidden, her camera now focused on the recovering lion. The magnificent animal gradually regained consciousness, first lifting its massive head, then struggling to its feet with the slightly uncoordinated movements of one shaking off sedation. The new tracking collar was barely visible beneath its mane. After ensuring the lion was safely mobile and the men were gone, Sophia retreated to her blind. Her mind raced with questions about what she had witnessed. Who were these men? What research were they conducting that required such secrecy? And most importantly, should she report them to park authorities? Back in her hiding place, Sophia reviewed the footage she had captured. The video clearly showed the men's faces, the tracking collar replacement, and their careful treatment of the sedated animal. Whatever their purpose, they hadn't harmed the lion. In fact, they had treated its wounds and appeared concerned for its well-being. As she packed up her equipment to return to the research camp where she was based, Sophia made a decision. Before reporting anything to the authorities, she would try to discover more about these mysterious researchers and their unauthorized lion monitoring project. The story was bigger than a simple case of trespassing. It had all the elements of a complex conservation mystery that she was determined to unravel.